Chapter 21 The Battle for the Ice Palace. The night after their encounter with Sarah and Kenny, Uni and Yuri made their plea to the UP Grand Council. At first, the others on the council did not want to listen. They had been safe by hiding and keeping to themselves for all of these years. Why should they risk themselves for others who had always been afraid of them? The debate went on until the early hours of the morning, until it was finally agreed that the Yuppies had to take a stand. They agreed that the pollution would not stop until everything was under their control. While the Yuppies were safe now, it would only be a matter of time before the pollution would be at their doors. It was their duty to come out of hiding and stand up. The word had been spread throughout the Yuppie clans. In the morning, they began gathering at the edge of the forest, with the ice palace in sight. There was a nervousness in the air, not because they were afraid of battle, but because for many of them, they had never left the cover of the forest. At the sound of the blow of the horns, they had started their charge with the shouts and yelps of "Yuppie!" They started running across the ice, some carrying weapons and covered in armor, and others just with their bare hands. There were thousands and thousands of them. Many of them had never met, but they ran side by side. As they got closer, arrows and large rocks started raining down from the sky. The pollution had started to fire their first round of defenses. Some of the Yuppies were hit, and others fell through the ice where it had become thin. Still, most of them kept on running, only thinking about one thing. It was time to get rid of the pollution. The wave of white kept on advancing towards the ice palace. Next, hundreds of grey wolves came through the gates of the ice palace. Some of them had the pollution riding on their backs, carrying weapons, while others were just on their own. They were snarling and bounding towards the Yuppies. From above, two giant black bats with red spots, blood-red eyes, and razor-sharp talons began diving from the castle. They swooped down and took out 10 Yuppies each. However, one Yuppie managed to jump up and climb onto the back of one of the bats. It clung around its neck. The bat flew higher and higher, trying to shake off the Yuppie, but it held on. The Yuppie managed to throw a piece of rope around one of the bat's wings, preventing it from flying. They both came hurtling down and crashed onto the ice. From the trees, 3 gliders with 2 Yuppies in each set off. They soared into the sky, heading to the other bat that was making another dive towards the Yuppies on the ground. As they got closer, the bat swerved and knocked one of the gliders aside, sending it crashing to the ground. The other 2 gliders circled the bat as it hovered in the air, reaching out and trying to grab them with its talons. The bat was getting more and more frustrated. One Yuppie in each of the gliders stood up. They climbed through a flap onto the top of the gliders and started swinging around a rope with a stone on the end of it. They looked at one another as they were spinning around, and at the same time they threw them towards the bat. As the stones and the ropes wrapped around the bat, the 2 Yuppies jumped, holding the end of the ropes, and swung into the air. The bat couldn't fly properly with the ropes around it, and the 2 Yuppies holding onto them below. It tried flapping its wings to gain height, but kept on falling further to the ground. As it got closer to the ground, more Yuppies surrounded it and threw more ropes. They pulled the bat down to the ground. The bat kept on thrashing about, but the Yuppies secured it so that it couldn't move. On the ground, across the ice, the advancing lines of wolves and Yuppies met with a giant crash as they barged into one another.